Hi, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. Join me in using the new Helios Par Puca in making this tulip field pendant. To begin our tulip field pendant, we are going to begin with the newer Par Puca bead, the Telos Bead. These are a 4-hole bead, and we're going to connect them on the corners so they sit creating a little frame or 4 walls of our field. What we're going to do is put a stop bead on some .006 wildfire thread and sew up through one of the Telos bead. From here, I want you to add 2 15s, 1 11, and 2 15s onto your threaded needle. I'm using the 15s in the Duracoat silver lined copper color, and I'm using the 11-0 in the Miyuki galvanized champagne, that Duracoat galvanized champagne. From here, grab another Telos and sew down through the Telos. This is going to work to link the two together along the side here, right there at that bridge. And what we're going to do is sew along the back here. This is how our Rivoli is going to be set in place. Along the back, go ahead and add 2 15s, 3 11s, and 2 15s. And sew to the front of that Telos bead. Those seed beads are just going to hang out right along the side here. Coming to the front, add in 2 15s, 1 11, 2 15s, and on to your next Telos bead. Again, with the Telos here, go ahead and add on those 2 15s, followed by 3 11s, 2 15s, and then up the back of the Telos bead, the next one. Give a tight pull to make sure all your thread is kind of separated. And you can see here how it's going to be set up once we come back and kind of connect the corners. From here, again, to the top, 2 11s, or sorry, 2 15s, 1 11, 2 15s. So down through the next Telos bead. When you're on the back side there, 2 15s, 3 11s, 2 15s, and up through the other side. Last thing here we need to do is link these two sides together. So you're going to do a grouping of 2 15s, 1 11, 2 15s. We're going back to that original Telos bead. When you come back to that original Telos bead, you're going to sew down the Telos to the back, which is going to be there, that starter thread, and then do your gap here of your 2 15s, 3 11s, and 2 15s. So up through that Telos, and you end right at the starter thread. So it's going to look a little funky right now until we get in and lay it in its appropriate shape. To get it into its appropriate shape, I want to sew through those first 2 15s as well as the first 11 and come on out. So you're coming out of that galvanized champagne. We're going to be going around the Telos here and connecting to those galvanized champagne beads, which is going to kind of bring this in to set our bezel. What I want to do is go ahead and add in here a series of 6 of my 11-0s, or I'm sorry, 6 of my 15-0s, and sew into the next 11-0 in that line. So again, we're just sewing through this front side here of the 11-0s in the champagne. 6 15s go on. And after those 6 15s go on, go to the next champagne. You know that you're going to the correct corner because it's only the single champagne rather than going to the back. Again here, 6 of my 15s. And then into that next champagne bead. Finishing up with 6 more. And then over to that champagne bead that you started with. That's going to get the inner row basically to hang on and hold on to my Rivoli. Now the Telos beads are still kind of sitting up. We are going to force them to sit down as we go along and connect along the back as well. So connecting the back, we are going to, coming through that 11-0 seed bead, I want you to slide down through those 2 15O seed beads and out through the back of the Telos. So now when you're looking at the Telos, the front kind of netting is right there, ready to hold in our beads. And now we're going to force those Telos to sit. So when they're sitting here, these sit up and get my little nestled back for my crystal to sit on top of. So to show the crystal sitting in there on the base, you can see it kind of hanging out. And I'm going to be going through and creating this little area for the crystal to sit in. To do so, I want you to sew through 2 of the 15Os, and then we're sewing through our 3 11Os in that champagne color. So around the back, we came out and we sewed through just that 1 11O seed bead. We're going to sew through those 3 champagne, connecting all of these corners basically. So we're going to go in here and you're going to do 1 15, 3 11s, 1 15, and pick up the next set of champagne 11Os. Again, 1 15, 3 champagne, 1 15, onto the next set of 11Os. As I'm doing this here, I want to drop in my crystal. Kind of get that ready as I pull in and create this little bezel to hold. 1 15, 3 11s, 1 15, and then up. Through the 3 11s at the top will get you into kind of part of that final rotation there. Making sure you're pulling nice and tight. Get that stop thread out of there. And give that a pull. We've got one more to do. 1 15, 3 11s, 1 15, and then into those original 3 beads that your thread was coming out of, which is going to close up kind of that front section of the bezel. Make sure your crystal's sitting in place as you pull, and get those Telos in line. Along the back now you have this bezel. You want to make sure that it's sitting nicely, that your crystal 14mm Rivoli is not going to pop out of it anywhere, and that it's sitting to center. And then along the front here, just kind of play around with your Rivoli, making sure that it's sitting correctly and giving a nice tight pull around for that simple bezel. Go ahead and reinforce that simple bezel, taking your thread and needle through all of those seed beads that you just added one more time. To get a little bit more depth to our cap, we're going to go around one more time, adding in 5 15Os, connecting the 3 11Os that are in the center of our Telos beads. Now you don't have to do this, I just like that little addition and that little color pop that adds. If you don't want to add the 5 seed beads, you do not have to, and you can skip this step. So I'm just adding these 5 and making sure as I add these 5 15s that they are sitting towards the interior of that Rivoli. After you add your last 5, if you choose so, you're going to come out through those last 3, those first 3 of your 11O seed beads here. You can see that creates just a little bit more depth to the design with those inclusions of the 15Os towards the middle. With your fingers, just push those down in, give a little tight pull, and then we're going to go towards the outside of these Telos beads, going down through the 2 15s that sit after that champagne colored 11Os to the back of the Telos here, and just to the back of the Telos. Mine wanted to escape there, go through an extra seed bead, but just go through that back of that Telos bead and out. So along the back here, when you're coming out the Telos bead, what we're going to do is actually step up to the other hole of the Telos, the ones that go kind of lateral there. And we're going to take our thread and needle, go back through the back there. You can see it kind of cross in. So you're coming through one of your center holes of your Telos bead and out. What this is going to do is have the least amount of thread showing as we jump up from one hole to the other. That's going to bring you out towards the outside so we can get ready to add our beautiful new Helios bead onto the Telos. When it comes to the Helios, to play up kind of that Colorshift 14mm Rivoli, I'm also going to use two different colors of my new Helios bead. I have the metallic purple and the metallic dark plum. You're going to pick up a 15-0, and I'm switching, just for a little depth, to the 15-0 in the galvanized gold color. Go through one of the Helios, which is a little bit like a whale's tail, through the top of the tail and come out through the back of the tail. When you're out the back of the tail, go ahead and add two 15-0s in that gold color, one of your 3mm crystals, and I'm using the apricot color, two more 15s, and then down through the other side of the Helios bead. So it's two holes, and it's just going to wrap right along the back there and wait for us to connect it. From here, go ahead and add one more 15 and go through that hole of the Helios bead, or I'm sorry, the hole of the Telos bead, and out. And it can be a little tricky to get out of kind of that hole of the Telos bead. So if you're using a 10 needle, it might be a little difficult. If you're using a 12, you can usually kind of bend it towards the back and run it right along the back of the design as you force it to go towards the back there and out. What we're going to do then is go in here and add in our alternate color of our design. You can see how that just sits right there really pretty on the edge. Coming out the middle here, we're doing the same thing, but we are adding on here the alternate color of that Helios. Before adding that Helios, what I want you to do is to add in two of your 15-0s rather than one. And it doesn't matter which color you do which. Out through that Helios bead with that dark plum first, and then you can see here I have one that has a little bit of a blocked hole with the coating. I just did a better beader on that. You can check that out. It was easy enough to get out there. Two 15s, one of my crystals, two 15s, down through the other side. Give a nice little tight pull. Two 15s, and through the other side of that Telos bead. When you come out the corner of the Telos, you're switching again to the alternate purple and continuing on with the design. So it's going to sit right like that with the two kind of nestled in there and the one on the corner. When you're at the corner, just one 15-0. When you're between the Telos, two of your 15-0s. You're going to go around adding in a total of 8 of the new Helios beads. As you finish adding in all of your pretty Helios beads, here's the back of the pendant, and you can see the design. And then here is the front of the pendant, which again you can wear kind of on the point, on the corner, however you're looking. What I'm going to do now is dress up a little bit right in front of the flower, connecting here a second spot of our Telos beads. So what I'm going to do, like we did on the other side, is I'm going to get my thread and needle going through kind of from the front to the back along that Telos bead. So my thread's kind of out there in the front. I'm going to push it to the back and then jump up along the side. So I'm coming out my Telos bead there along the front. From here, we're going to jump from one to the other, just decorating with a little bit of our crystal bead. So you're just going to do 11-0. Then you're going to get your crystal, grab one of your crystal beads, one of your 11-0, and you're going to sew down through that bead right there. Again, just pops a little bit of crystal right there on the side. Along the back then, just some seed beads to run right along that back. So go ahead, it doesn't matter which color you're picking up. You can go ahead and pick up right about 6 of those. And once you have those 6 15s on, sew through that Telos bead to the front, and then over 11 3mm crystal, 11, and down to the other side. This exaggerates that crystal look a little bit while connecting on and really highlighting the color change, I think, of those Helios beads. So again, coming out the back here, don't come out the 15. And go right along the back, 6 more. And this step as well is optional. That's the fun thing with a lot of pendants. You can add more, you can bling it up, you can keep it more simple. It's up to you. Coming up to the front then, grab on your 11, your crystal, and your 11-0 seed bead. Down through the back. And continue with that design 2 more times till you come out through that side section. When you come out near that stop bead, slide the stop bead out of the way, pushing it up a little bit, and tie that starter thread onto your thread that's going to have the crystal. You're going to cover this knot that you're making here with the crystal that you're putting in place with my 11 crystal 11 as we jump from one telos to the other. Then we're going to do our 6 seed beads along the back and finish up our design. The last thing I need to do for my pendant after coming out the top, I'm going to go through that 11 crystal 11, and I need to put a bail on my piece so that way I can hang my pendant. I'm going to go down through the telos, and after I go down through the telos, I'm going to jump up through the side of the telos, so I'm coming out in between one of my telos beads. From here, I'm going to sew up through the 2 seed beads that sit along the side of the Helios, up through that same Helios, towards the top here. And if you want to, you can do a jump ring, you can do a wire guard. I usually like to do wire guards. The reason that I like to do wire guards is because they help this pendant sit really, really nicely. You could also put a fun little tassel on the bottom here. And when you're doing a wire guard at the top, if you do choose to do a jump ring or a bail, it doesn't affect the thread really because you're going to be rubbing against metal. So I'm going to grab a wire guard here. And my wire guard that I'm using is just a gold-plated wire guard. I'm going through those first 2 15s. I did switch my needle to a size 12. I'm going to sew through the wire guard. Open the wire guard just ever so slightly so it can kind of cup around that 3mm round. Go down the wire guard on the other side. And once you're down the wire guard on the other side, you're going to go through the 15s on the other side of the crystal. There you can see the wire guard sits nice and at the top and has a nice finished look. Circle your thread around if you want to reinforce it. The pendant's actually not very heavy, surprisingly, for having all of these beads attached. So down into the piece and then tie off the thread so you have the thread along the back, and just burn down those thread edges and have your pendant ready. The fun thing to do is to look at the front and the back of the piece. So when you look at this tulip field pendant, you can see that it also has a lovely design in the back. If you want to keep it a little bit more simplistic, all you do is flip your crystals so when you have it, you have a little less bling going on the front and then a little simpler design on the back. It's really fun to play with these new beads and to get a new look at these beads. And thanks Par Puca for having a fun new shape, the Helios bead. As always, thank you so much for watching this tulip field necklace. It's been really fun to play with all of these new beads that are coming out and to include these 2 Par Puca beads together. Along with the beautiful Rivoli, it really does make a statement piece as you wear it and enjoy. Keep in mind there's so many supplies at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu if you need anything to help you in your jewelry journey. Remember, you can also hit that little bell button and subscribe to this YouTube channel to get regular updates from us here at Potomac Beads, as well as making sure that you don't miss out on any new beads and new things like the Helios. You can always also share this, give a little thumbs up, and say what you're excited to do with those new Helio beads in your designs. Thanks everyone for watching and happy beading.